This is Black Money.
About economic liberation and freedom.
Critical conversations to invigorate our communities through Black-led CDFIs.
But most importantly, we want people to create wealth.
When we look at our communities, we still see a big disinvestment.
Going from resourceful to resourced.
CDFIs have that high touch. They understand their customers. They know how to reach out to those customers. They stay in touch with those customers.
We are trying to create job makers and not just job takers.
Yeah, I've even heard it said recently that great leaders don't lead from the top down, they lead from the bottom up because they're actually lifting everybody.
We have to do more than just being a regular lender.
Don't give me this story about if I teach you how.
Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you, and whatever time you're tuning in, so good to be here with you. I'm Justin Minott at the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs, and I am joined by someone, to me, who is an absolute legend in this space. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it the way I see it. Durham local, and so just very proud, Roberta McCullough, SVP and COO of Institute Capital. Good to have you here, Roberta.
Thank you so very much, Justin. Happy to be here.
Yeah, now you need to know, and this might be giving away a little bit too much information because this is like a golden key that I'm about to give you. If you drop Roberta McCullough's name anywhere like 25 miles around Durham and in Durham, it's like a golden key. Like, this is somebody who has just, they're like, oh, you know, Roberta, like here's like $1 million. Like, this is, just because of who you are and how you show up in the community. I just love everything about what you're doing. So let's get into your story. Roberta, talk to us about the making of Roberta McCullough. Like, how did you end up in this space, in this role, all of this? Give us that journey.
Well, thank you, Justin. I'm very humbled by what you just said. I just love this space. And honestly, I got into this industry really unexpectedly and by accident. I was in the banking industry. I'd been in the banking industry for about 10 years. I worked for a minority bank that used to be here in Durham. And one of my friends said, hey, Roberta, there's a CDFI that has this job opening to run their home lending team. And I don't know if you want me to say the name or not. I can.
Sure.
So it was self-help, right? And I said, self-help? What is a self-help? I said, that's not my industry, because I'm automatically thinking social work and things of that nature. And so they said, no, this is a CDFI. And I'm like, well, what's a CDFI? Now, this was in 1997. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll check it out. So I read about it and I applied, and I was hired by Martin.
Shout out to Martin. Doing great work.
Yes, he is. And so I went on board and I was there. I ended up being there for 13 years and learned so much more. And really, a week into that, I'm thinking, this is my space. This is where I want to be. It felt like a place. Yes, felt like a place where differences could be made, and my voice was actually appreciated. So I ended up being there for 13 years. Fast forwarding, and you'll really appreciate my next step. I was recruited from self-help to what was then the support center that was run by Linwood Long. And so I'd known Linwood for some time before that.
Oh, we're going to get into that. You got some dirt, I'm sure.
Well, I won't tell it publicly. However,
That's good. She's loyal. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. However, so the support center was doing some work with community development credit unions at the time, but Linwood was looking to pivot the model and become a direct lender. So he recruited me from self-help to launch the loan fund that is now retitled. The organization is what is present day Carolina Small Business. And so I was there for 4 years and some change, and a couple of years passed and I got the opportunity to come to the Institute. So here I am, present day. And so the Institute acquired a CDFI in 2020. And our CEO, who's Kevin Price, said, hey, I was running one of our women's business centers. And he said, I need you over here, just knowing my background. And so the rest is history.
Wow. 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 I love that journey. So, talk about what you're doing right now at Institute Capital. Give us a little bit of even the structure of the Institute and what
Yes.
Institute Capital is specifically doing.
Yes. So I definitely have to start at the top, which is the institute that we called, and people know us as the Institute. The formal name is the National Institute for Minority and Economic Development, or the Institute for short. And so what most people don't realize is that, well, they know how the Institute started, which was founded by the late Andrea Harris, who we all know and love, or
Mhm.
do and love, and then also by Lou Myers, who's the present board chair. So the Institute used to be a policy kind of think tank to focus on minority and economic development, which we still do that.
Mhm.
However, it is a very different model present day. So now we are, as of last year, we're comprised of three nonprofits. The Institute, which houses the Center for Entrepreneurship, which houses all of our women's business centers. It houses one of our DOT programs, and it also houses operations. Institute Capital is the lending arm and the lending affiliate of the Institute. And we acquired that CDFI in 2020. It had been around for years. It's been around for 26 years. It used to be under the North Carolina Community Development Initiative that was founded by Abdul Rashid.
Mm.
Everybody knows Abdul, right? And so they merged into the Institute in 2020. We maintained the CDFI as a separate 501c3. So that gave the Institute, now we were able to provide technical assistance, and now we're able to lend to those same clients. Last
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that was very exciting. Last year, we stood up the third nonprofit, which is Community Development Initiative, or we're calling that the initiative for short, in honor of the former Community Development Initiative that Abdul originated.
Mm.
So that, and that is a CDC. So what people may not know, the CDC is a Community Development Corporation. So the CDC is our development arm for affordable housing. So now we have the full circle with ICAP being a lender to small businesses and to affordable housing developers. We have the Institute that houses the entrepreneurship side and the TA for entrepreneurs. And then we have the CDC that trains, not only do they develop, but they also train new general contractors and new contractors that want to get into the industry. So we can cover everything in this
Do it all.
environment. Yes, we can.
That's
And
a great menu. What drew you to the financial space? Because you said you started off in banking. Like, what was the tug that got you even at this table?
thank you for that question. So when I was in banking, I worked for two different banks. One, what used to be Southern National, which ended up rolling into BB&T and now Truist. But then I also was a branch manager of Mutual Community Savings Bank, which is the minority-owned bank that was in Durham. So that was two very different banking experiences.
I
One was
bet.
a minority bank and one's a majority bank. And so, but what I did realize in both of those instances, more so with what was the former Southern National, is that we were not represented very well in the financial industry. Um, we were just not there, except for the standard checking and savings. But when it came to getting capital to start businesses, I mean, that was a precipitous drop of that access. So
Mm.
it got me curious, like, well, what is really going on here? And so I just became very curious and concerned about the lack of people that were in the arena, because in both instances, I was like the only one at the former bank at Southern National. I was the only minority banking officer in the entire city.
That's crazy.
And I'm thinking, what in the world is going on?
Mm.
So I said, okay, this is something that I need to do my part in solving this issue.
Mm.
So when I left Mutual Community Savings and went to self help, I really realized, okay, this is where I can start to make a difference. And so that's kind of been my personal and my professional quest to make sure that people that look like me, whether in gender or in color, knew that this was a safe space and a place that they could come to as a resource. because it's hard for you to walk into spaces no matter what it is, and when you don't, that's that instant kind of adjustment you have to make when you don't see somebody that looks like you in a space.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what it is because we're like, okay, you scan the roll, okay, this is what I'm doing today, and you adapt. But for lending, it really, we just need to be more represented, and my team is represented in that same way. Have a very diverse team with Native American, Hispanic, African American, so we are very well represented, so that anyone that comes to us is okay and understands, okay, this, they get me.
Mm-hmm.
We always hear, y'all want to be seen and heard. Well, we see you and we hear you.
Wow. So I like this piece. What has been the advantage of having so many diverse voices at the table? How has that actually shaped the work that you are doing and enhanced the work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question. So it gives a different frame of thought. As I mentioned that the Institute started out as a policy entity, and it still does that. You can't shape policy around matters if you haven't lived it.
Come on.
I mean,
Come on.
everything else is just conjecture. It's like, okay, unless you really know what my needs are, what my concerns are, or what my issues are, you can't form policy around that.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's prescriptive, it's guessing,
yes. Yes. So I make sure that our team is a representative of the communities that we serve, so that we know where these businesses are, what their needs are. It just works.
I love that so much. I want to get to the chat here. We got a few folks hopping in. Rob Boyd, good to see you here. Ron Brooks, one of our Alliance members, and Monique Velasquez, welcome to the conversation. If you're tuning in here, hop in the chat. We want to know who you are, what you're up to. Give some amens, give some questions, whatever you got to do in there. That's why we do this on live, so that it gets to be more of a conversation. So now tell us the suite of what ICAP does specifically, like products, services, what you're really working on internally at Institute Capital.
Absolutely. So we do a myriad of things. We are, as I mentioned before, we are a small business lender, and we also lend to experienced affordable housing developers.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means for us in terms of, let's start with the affordable housing development side. So we want to lend to those that are, the hardest money for developers to get is the money to do site control or to do infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And so while we don't currently finance the entire project, but we like to say that we want to make sure that project gets started. And then on the tail end, we'll lend to what we call the capital stack, because we know that affordable housing development, you have to have multiple sources to make that project work. So we like to be part of that permanent capital stack. So I like to present that such that we help you start the project and we help you finish it. So it really works out very well. And we have clients all over the state and beyond, really, because I failed to mention that our region is actually 5 states. And with a growth market in South Carolina, we cover the Carolinas, the Virginias, Kentucky, and DC Metro. So we took on the footprint of one of our programs under DOT, because we wanted to be able to, at the opportunity, to serve whatever clients may have needed funding. So that's the affordable housing side of it. The small business side is that we lend to diverse and I'll say diverse businesses, just kind of keep it PC for now.
What a time! What a time!
but so, and that's for startups as well, because most recently, well, I guess it was in 2023, we became a small business community advantage lender. So we have that risk mitigation and that credit mitigation with the guarantee, and the SBA just increased that from $350,000 to $500,000. So it really captures the vast majority of the clients that we serve. And it gives us the ability to help those startup businesses, because that, again, is a very tough place to be when you're trying to get capital and you're trying to start. It's a chicken and egg thing. Like, you don't have the experience, so we can't lend to you, but you need the experience to get money. So we understand it.
Right.
Especially with the
We had one guest on the show call that the believe in you money. You know, that
Yes.
was Paul Jones from Prosperous Detroit. You know, the need for this believe in you money
Yes.
that a lot of other communities can access in other ways, you know,
Correct.
that doesn't exist for certain folks.
That's
So
correct. That's correct.
yeah,
And
so
so
keep
we
cooking
want to
on
make
that. I
that.
like that.
Yes. Yeah. So we want to make a difference in that regard. And so, and, you know, the SBA is quite open to startups. Now, with that, let's just say you want to make sure that you are prepared. And so we have with our Center for Entrepreneurship and my very skilled staff, we'll get you ready for that. We won't just turn you away. We'll say, okay, this is what we need you to do to get
Mhm.
ready. So it's that technical assistance that's embedded in that process.
Now, what are some of the gaps that you see? Let's talk to the entrepreneurs. We have a lot of entrepreneur listeners who tune
Mhm.
into this show here. So, for the entrepreneurs, what are the things that people need to get ready for to be able to access capital or even just to have their business well positioned to move forward? What are some of the biggest pieces that you
Mhm.
see missing typically?
Well, the first thing that we almost always see is that don't wait to the end of the year to develop your financials. You need to
Mm,
have your profit and loss statements along the way. Because let's say you're
yeah,
applying for funding in July. Well, we're going to ask for an interim statement from January through June.
right.
So you can't say, oh, I'll get my accountant to do that or my bookkeeper to do that. It should already be done
Hmm.
because that's just good practice because you want to know how will you know if you're making money along the way if you're not tracking it?
Right.
And how do you know if your expenses are exceeding your revenue if you're not tracking it? So and it's not a difficult thing to do. There are a lot of platforms out there. We all know about QuickBooks and Wave and all those things. It's not a difficult thing to do to track your money, but you have to know where you are.
Hmm.
It shouldn't be us telling you where you are. It should be you saying, okay, this is where I am, and be able to explain because numbers tell a story. I actually have a math, my degree was in math. And
Hmm.
so numbers are an exact science. They're going
Right.
to tell you exactly what is going on without any kind of confusion.
Right.
So if you have your financials in front of you, then you know what's going on in your business.
Right. And that's the business of business. I think there's a lot of
Right.
times entrepreneurs, they're very good at their craft, they're very good at their service, but then learning the business of business is a different thing, like
Yes.
speaking that language, being able to
Yes.
figure out what your numbers really mean. Like that's and you're able to do it. Entrepreneurs can do this. If you can learn
Yes.
whatever craft you've learned, like you can
Mhm.
pick this stuff up, but I think it feels so big for a lot of entrepreneurs. So where would you say you start, right? For those who are like, okay, I know I need to get a handle on this. I want to keep this because I mean, you speak to so many entrepreneurs on a day-to-day basis. I feel like you're so
Yes.
deep in this world. Where would you start?
As an entrepreneur, I would start with the resources that are available at no, and I'm going to say at no cost initially, but then I'm going to
Hmm.
redefine that. You know, all of these resources out here, the women's business centers, we have 4 under our umbrella, 3 in North Carolina, 1 in Virginia. Women's business centers provide, I'll say, prepaid services because your tax dollars pay for that
Right.
through the SBA. We're SBA resource in that regard. So
Mm.
tap into those and other SBA resources. I'll give them all a shout out with SCORE is an SBA resource. Then
Yeah.
you have the SB TDC, the Small Business Technology and Development Centers,
Yeah.
free resource. They're located on the university systems. The Small
Hmm.
Business Centers located on the community college system. I mean, it's just too many resources out there for you not to have that
Right.
information. I mean, they
Right.
are everywhere. And so, you know, with women's business centers, for example, there's 160 across the country. I mean, and on and on and on. So there are resources pretty much within 30 minutes of anywhere where anybody lives.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this. I love this. And great seeing the activity in the chat. Ruben, good to see you in here. Your small business is looking for capital. Well, I mean, you got the right person. So Roberta can at least
Yes,
point you in the right direction. And
absolutely.
what else here? Rob
And
Boyd,
if I
question
could,
from,
I'm
pardon?
sorry. No, you go right ahead. You were going where I was going. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Question from Rob. What can diverse developers do to redevelop their own communities and align with city plans for economic development or aligning with city plans for economic development? That is a great opportunity there.
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead on that one, Roberta?
Yes, I would say, and thank you. I cannot. I'll be remiss if I didn't say this. Rob Boyd is actually my oldest son.
Hey, Rob.
He's
Hey,
smarter than
congratulations.
me. So
Congratulations on having a great mom. That's what, not everybody, you don't get to choose your parents. So congrats.
So that's a great and an excellent question. So I would say for those local developers, tap into the local government, go to your planning departments for the city because they have plans. Every city has 10 and 20-year plans. And right now, affordable housing is at the top of every single city's list. I promise you it is. So,
Yeah.
You want to know what the city's needs are because you don't want to be presenting something or planning something that nobody needs. It's still the law of supply and demand, right? So I would suggest that they tap into the cities, the local municipalities, and or the counties for that matter, plans for if your thing is affordable housing, do that. If it's other economic development, bless you,
Thank you.
then same thing, same place. That's where you start because that's where all the money flows from on a local level. I know we're focused right now on federal level, but the local level is what makes a difference in your daily life.
Right.
And so that's where I would start. And always you can contact the Institute for our CDC. They are training, they're training developers. And so if you want to get into that industry, that is a great place to start. But I would suggest that you reach out to your local municipalities or if it's a county, reach out to those county commissioners because they'll talk to you. They're not, that's what they're there for the people. They want to talk to you. So, just walk in the office, be bold with it.
Right. Well, and a lot of people think it's like, that's unfair. I'm going to know about all the opportunities and I'm going to know what the city needs. No, that's the point. Like then you get to actually play that game at that level, the way that it's supposed to be played, which is relationship based, knowledge based, wisdom based, all of these pieces. So I love that. I got to give a shout out again to Ron, one of our newest board members at the Alliance, another reform banker like me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, still recovering, man.
I'm fully recovered. I am fully recovered from that.
Yeah. Now, okay, this is a good one for those for the people who are listening might not be familiar with CDFIs, CDCs, and work in community development space. What has been some of the pieces that you need to recover from in the banking world? Like, what has been the biggest difference in terms of how you approach finance here versus typically how banks approach finance?
Yes, that's an excellent question because it is a process. It's an undoing of your thinking. I would say that I'm not going to say throw everything out that you learned because there's some valuable things that I did learn from banking. However, you really need to rethink and focus on what your organization offers. For us, for example, we have a very flexible approach to credit scores. Unfortunately, this country is one that's credit score driven. The only country in the world, check it out. You won't find another country that has.
And it's recent. Like we're talking the last maybe 40 years that credit scores became a big
thing.
Factor.
It's really it seems like something that everybody's achieving, but it's really a delineator. But we know why, but we won't go there.
We can go there. There is where I live. But
I would say focus on what if you're looking for funding, find out what the criteria is. I'll tell you what ours is. Our credit score floor is 600. It's unheard of. If you say that to a bank and they were like, what are you talking about? Because normally theirs is 700 or more. Some banks may do 675 or something like that.
Right. If you got a bunch of other stuff going right for you. Yeah.
Right. That's right. So that's the start because that one thing can really shut the door before you get a chance to even explain your project. So I would say that really make sure that you understand what that lender that you're approaching, make sure you understand what their appetite is and what what they will allow in terms of whether they're interested in startups or not. Whether they're interested in what the industries are. That's another thing because everything is not created equal. We pay very close attention to industries that are trending in a good way or a bad way. Because we have to, I mean, we are lenders, so we are risk mitigators.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that the project that you're presenting is one that where you will be successful, because if you're successful, then we know that we're going to get repaid. But, you know, I always give the crazy example. It's going to sound a little extreme, but don't come to us and say, you know what, I'm going to open up a chain of Blockbuster video store. Really? Industry is not interested in that.
Right.
It's an extreme example.
That ship has sailed.
You know, right. So you want to know.
Although I feel like I could make a case for some like, hey, retro, it's coming back, and people are wanting to go more analog, and this is kind of the spin I feel like I could make it work, but keep going.
It's a no for us.
I'm trying out here. Hey, come on, everybody in the chat, give me some love, man. That was creative.
You know, so you want to know what the industry that you're going into is something that is relevant. Again, I go back to supply and demand. You want to go into an industry, but there's no demand for it because we're not comfortable that you can make money and pay us back.
Right. And it's not good for you either.
That's
like,
exactly right.
It's not helping anything.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. So now, where do you see things heading for ICAP? Like, what are some of the areas of focus for you all that you're really leaning into, that you're passionate about for the next few years?
Yes. So, you know, a big bucket, you know, we're going to remain in the small business and in the affordable housing sector, because affordable housing is critical right now. It's not going to, and it's not getting better. It's almost really getting worse right now. So we need everyone that has those skill sets to be in this industry and help solve this really nationwide problem that we have.
Yeah.
And small business is not going anywhere either. So, you know, that is the engine and remains the engine of this country. So we want to make sure that diverse businesses are rising to the top, and that the numbers are growing, and that the impact that all CDFIs do across the country is being seen. And I think, I'm very confident at this point that the CDFI industry is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. You know, we have
needed.
It is, and we've made a name for ourselves. Banks get us. We're key partners with banks. Banks fund
But
us.
even just from an industry standpoint, there is a gap. Like, if we're talking about this like as a business case,
yes,
there is a gap in the funding ecosystem
Yes.
that CDFIs are needed to fill. Like, this period,
Absolutely.
right? But keep cooking.
Yes. And so, you know, I'm going back to the affordable housing side. I mean, it still remains that owning a home is one of the biggest steps you can take to building your wealth. There are certainly other ways to do it, but that is one way that you can catapult your net worth by owning a home. Now, there's, you know, some people would there's pros and cons to that. I'll say that because it's one thing to buy the home, it's another thing to keep it.
Yeah.
So we want the small business side of things. We want to make sure that these businesses are stable because they are employing people that are looking to buy homes. And so it goes hand in hand, those two industries as we see it, because we want to fund those contractors. We want to fund everybody that's working to build your houses also wants a home of their own. So we want to make sure that everyone has a fair shot at you know, growing their wealth in whatever way they see fit. So affordable housing is certainly one of those things. Small business and a successful business is certainly another way. But you know, you can't start a business and then you can't access capital and then you can't hire. And so small businesses are solidifying the neighborhoods that they reside in. And so that's what we tend to kind of forget. It's not as though they're making these nationwide impacts, and some are. However, most times they're in the communities and they're hiring people within those communities. And so it's just a way to stabilize economies and cities.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Now, we were able to spend some time on the small business side. Talk about what it actually takes on the affordable housing side to thrive and prosper. Projects that you see are making sense. Because I know for a lot of people that are even passionate about this space, trying to be involved in this space, there can seem like the numbers don't really make sense, or it's really not providing it in an accessible way to the community, right? So what are you seeing working in this space to actually develop units that are accessible to folks, sustainable for folks, where the developers are coming out okay, like the whole thing, the math is mathing across the board.
Yes.
What are you seeing actually work?
Well, I can give you one example of a project that ICAP, of course, we call ourselves ICAP, so we generally don't say Institute Capital too much. But
Yeah.
one project that ICAP is participating in Greensboro, for example, the city of Greensboro has a project in conjunction with one of the local foundations, with ICAP, and with Self-Help Credit Union, where we are deploying a $32 million fund in Greensboro proper to help to preserve affordable housing units and to create new ones. For the Institute, for ICAP, our role is to deploy roughly just under 11 million of that. And our focus is on diverse contractors, women and other diverse contractors that are doing some of the smaller projects that the larger general contractors don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But we are funding them. We'll lend up to $1 million for them to work on these projects. There are many boarded up units there. I think the city of Greensboro said there's roughly about 1,100 units they're looking to preserve that someone can be living in.
Wow.
So we're lending to contractors that are acquiring these properties or renovating them. And so that is making a difference. It's a long-term project. We just got started really last year, but it is making a difference. And our other partner in that, Self-Help, is doing the larger projects over $1 million. But it works because this way everybody can come to the table and make a difference in this particular city. That project can be replicated in every municipality because going back to every municipality has the same problem. It doesn't matter if it's Asheville or if it's Wilmington or where, every large municipality and small has this problem.
Yeah, well, because people need a place to live. Like that's not
right.
going anywhere at all. Now, how does the lending piece on a project like that actually work out for the developer, for the contractor?
Yes.
How does that actually pan out for them?
Yes, great question. So for us in particular, again, our maximum loan amount is $1 million. Because we received money from the city of Greensboro, we're able to lend that at a well below market rate. Our rate on that project is 4.5%.
Amazing.
We have two other banking partners that are participating in this fund on our side. And so we're able to lend this at below market because we know, again, affordable housing is an irony to it. Affordable housing is very expensive to build, and so, but it's the same material. So you have to have these subsidies in order for it to be successful. And so all the partners in it realize that. And so we are doing our part to make sure that they have low cost capital where they can do whatever they need to do, get their materials, build, renovate, whatever their project speaks to, that they can do in an affordable way.
Right. And then the cost of money is not a barrier. I love what you're doing. I love that. Now, you said you also have some projects, you're doing some work in the farming community. Tell us about that, because that is fascinating.
Yes, it is. I have always admired the farming industry. I tell people all the time, listen, you can ignore a farmer if you want to, but the last time I didn't see any cans growing on the tree. So, so I appreciate what they do. So, we did receive $1 million from the state as seed money to launch our Minority Farmers Initiative. And so that is to help minority farmers across the state of North Carolina to do whatever it is they want to do a value add product for their existing farm. We have one particular farmer that is a cattle farmer, and he wanted to add a butcher shop and do some online meats for those who eat beef and everything. So we were able to lend the money for him to do that. He just came back and said, hey, I really want to expand. And so we were able to support his initiatives. So these are, so this is a bona fide farm. We're not talking about you growing something in your backyard. Now we're talking about those
this is a farm, yes,
in volume, right?
Yes.
And so we're able to lend to them to help support whatever their initiative is.
Brilliant. All right. So now a question we always ask on this show: what does Black liberation mean to you?
Black liberation means to me choice, having choices. because nobody wants to receive just what somebody's giving you. It has to be something that you actually want and need and can use. So it's all about choice, and it's about choices. And we use the word equality quite a bit, but it's about, equality of choice. So if I want to do something that someone else that doesn't look like me think, oh, she wouldn't be interested in that. Well, how do you know? Did you ask?
Right.
So it's all about choice.
That is good. I like that a lot. Beautiful. All right. Now tell us, what is one fun fact about Roberta McCullough that nobody would know, or very few people would know, that you can say on the show? What is something like that? You got hidden talents or something like that? What do you got?
Oh gosh, this may not be too much of a secret for those that know me,
Uh-huh.
but I am a foodie.
Okay.
I absolutely love a very good meal, and I take fellowship seriously. I am not going to sit at a table and have a meal with somebody that I don't particularly care for, because it's a sacred thing to me.
Yeah.
So that fellowship and that good meal, it is just music to my heart. To share that with other people. My husband and I, we love to eat out, and we often invite friends that we love and care about, and our family, because it's a sacred time. And so I would say that's probably a hidden fact. What's another one?
Now, on the foodie side, any spots that are, kind of off the beaten path that you're like,
Yes.
nah, man, like I had this recently, must have, because, I'm here in Durham and I can access, I will access food. I will drive for proper food. So
Yes, absolutely. So you mean speaking in Durham? Because
Durham and beyond, anywhere
Yeah.
accessible that you're like, ooh, lately I've been really, this spot or this one that's, kind of maybe a hidden gem.
Great question. My hometown is Asheville.
Okay.
And so I was just there, and I'm sitting here as you're talking, I'm thinking, what was the name of that Italian spot that we went to? I know exactly where it is, and forgive me, because the thing I love about Asheville, just like Durham, is that there are a lot of independently owned restaurants. So you get the character of the community because these are individually owned.
Yes.
So I cannot think of the name of the spot. So those are the kind of places I look for. If I go to another city, I am not going to a chain. I'm
Right.
going
Absolutely not.
I'm going to ask the locals, like, what's a good place for this or that, and that's where we end up going.
Yeah. Now, I was just in Memphis. Ron hosted us with the Alliance in Memphis, and they told me about this barbecue spot called like Cozy Corn or something like this. And you roll up, like the sign is falling off on the building and all these. But when I tell you these were some of the best ribs I've ever had, and it was my last stop before heading to the airport, because that's how important food is to me. So you are a woman after my own heart. This is just exactly. Now, actually, can we show? You showed me a sign that you had on your desk. We were like,
listen, this is true, people.
Yeah. And now I don't know if it comes through reversed or not on LinkedIn, but it says, I'm sorry for the things I said when I was hungry.
Yes. I must eat,
Oh, me too. I know, me too. Like, that's a must. Now you were going, what was the other one? The other fun fact about you that you had?
This is not a real big deal, but it may be to some. I am the only left-handed person in my immediate family, and there are only 10% of the population of people that are left-handed.
Wow. Okay. Any other lefties here in the chat? I had a friend, I'm trying to remember, he had a really good line about left-handed people. He said something about how, everyone's born maybe right-handed, but only 10% of the population recovers or something. Anyway, he had a really good line about how left-handed people are supposedly better. So that's fun.
I'll go better, but we're rare.
a rare breed. Now, do you feel like it changes the way you see the world? Like, being a left-handed person?
Yes, because we have to think of little things that people who are right-handed don't think about. Like when you go to, speaking of food, when you go to a table, we have to be positioned on the opposite corners so that our left hand is not bumping up against the right-handed person beside us.
Oh, yeah.
So those little things that people don't think about right-handed, but we have to think about everything. So it's a fun fact.
Yeah, I love it. Oh yeah, definitely, Ron. Definitely. I know. I know it. Beautiful. Now, what is like the next big thing for ICAP? Where do you have your eyes on the horizon? What's the vision for the future?
Great. Well, the next big thing, which I'm hoping is a big thing across the entire CDFI industry, and that is the climate funding. We're all waiting with bated breath to see if, because we've applied for funding, see if we're going to be part of that first round. We definitely want to get in that, I say game, but I use it loosely, into that industry, because as it relates to small business and affordable housing developers, I mean, what better way on the affordable housing side for them to be building homes that are less expensive for those of low and moderate income, that their houses are stable and energy efficient. I mean, that's just a beautiful thing, because one of the things that people struggle with is high utility costs, because they're in these homes that are not built well.
And it disproportionately affects Black and brown communities.
That's
the
correct.
amount that people spend per capita on their utilities is ridiculous.
Yes, it is very ridiculous. So we definitely want to be part of that solution, as well as on the small business side. There are plenty of small businesses that can expand their product base and or pivot completely to become part of the solution on the climate industry side, whether it's installed in, and people think, some people may think that this is an industry that I can't participate in, it's too big, it's too uncertain. But no, it can be a contractor that's installing energy efficient windows or energy efficient appliances. All of that counts.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that people understand that.
I've even heard of a landscaper who's doing greenhouse gas reducing activities in their landscaping, in terms of what they're putting down and how that, all of it.
Yes, it can be a cleaning company that is using environmentally safe products. It can be, it's a myriad of options and opportunities that everybody can participate.
Yeah. Now, from the CDFI perspective, because I know I've talked to a few CDFI leaders who are like, I want to be in this space, but it feels like a big barrier. Some people didn't jump on the opportunity for this first wave because they didn't know what they didn't know, and compliance, and how is this all going to work? How did you approach that? As you're innovating in-house doing this, how did you really approach that and kind of wrap your minds around getting into this new industry for you guys?
Right. Great question. Well, I have to practice what I preach, in that there are resources out there. The Justice Climate Fund that the Alliance is part of, for example, is offering training. Appalachian Community Capital is offering training. There, all the those that have been doing this kind of work is offering training to train CDFI members, so that we can become fluent in the work that we're doing. So it's accessing that. We've already taken training. Myself and one of my team members did solar lending training last year, and it was very intense. So it's about educating yourself so that you can help those around you.
Well, I like that you're eating your own cooking, because that's what you told entrepreneurs to do, and you're doing it yourself. So yeah, because that is the whole thing, is consistently being able to be innovating, moving forward. Right. And Angela Anderson, we are definitely still live. So thanks for tuning in here from the West Coast. So you're having breakfast now over there. Good to have you here. I love it. All right. Anything else you want to leave? Any words of wisdom you want to leave the good people of LinkedIn before we sign out here? This has been absolutely magical. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So I would just say, just be this is a quote from, I believe it was Gandhi. Be the part you want to see. Don't sit back and say, well, they are not doing this, and I don't. Who is they? They is us. We're them. Let's go to work. Let's participate in every way that you can. If you're unsure, feel free to call the Institute and say, hey, how can I be a part of this? How can I help? How can you help my business? How can you help my family? So you just open your mouth and ask, because if the question's not asked, then it's not going to get answered.
And I'll say that usually if there's something stirring within you, like that needs to change, or I wish that was different, sometimes it's because you're supposed to do something about it. And it's in your heart because there's something for you to do there. So I love that piece. Be that. Go do that. I love that so much. Thank you, Roberta. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for who you are. I feel like I'm sitting with a celebrity guest on this one
Oh my
because
God.
of just how much you mean to my community and to the people. I mean, you've touched so many lives of people that I know personally. So
Well,
thank you for what you do and ICAP and all of that. And to everyone who tuned in here at LinkedIn, you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with us. And that is not a small thing. So thank you for being here. Appreciate you all. Share this interview out. We want to amplify the work of ICAP, amplify Roberta and the messages that came through today. So hit share on social media. And I think that's it. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you, Justin. My pleasure.
All right. Keep changing the world, everybody. We will see you again next week. This is Black Money.
About economic liberation and freedom.
Critical conversations to invigorate our communities through Black-led CDFIs.
But most importantly, we want people to create wealth.
When we look at our communities, we still see a big disinvestment.
Going from resourceful to resourced.
CDFIs have that high touch. They understand their customers. They know how to reach out to those customers. They stay in touch with those customers.
We are trying to create job makers and not just job takers.
Yeah, I've even heard it said recently that great leaders don't lead from the top down, they lead from the bottom up because they're actually lifting everybody.
We have to do more than just being a regular lender.
Don't give me this story about if I teach you how